Manitou Springs Mayor Drummond.
Fellow travelers, how are you? You know, there's an old African saying that says that the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. And the truth is, we're at the crossroads here, both in our communities and the Front Range, in our state and across the region, where we can make the greatest impact for our lives today and for those that come behind us. And the real idea behind sustainability is that we not take from future generations to live well today, but that we understand how to live well today by leaving something also for those who come behind us. So I'm the mayor of Manitou Springs. We're about 5,400 souls in a box canyon right up the road here, but it's a beautiful community. And it's a community that has an environmental basis deep in its soul. Approximately 9 mineral springs that have been running for many years, one of which hydrogeologists tell us have been running continuously for 15,000 years. It's the place where Buckskin Charlie, the last hereditary chief of the Southern Utes, was born outside of Garden of the Gods. So we have a lot of history in our little area. And it's an area that allowed a Texan and a lawyer to come into their town after 3 years and run for mayor and get a great deal of support. And I got a chance to tell them that I had some pretty ambitious plans for our town. I understood what I thought the soul of our town was and what we ought to preserve, but there were some things I thought we really ought to reach for. And people that had lived there for 60, 70, 80 years sat me down with a cup of coffee and a piece of cherry pie, and we talked about those ideas, and we're rolling those things out. So I thought I'd share a handful of those. And these are the initiatives that our town has actively engaged in the last 20 months or so. The first one is a resolution adopting the Manitou Springs Climate Protection Plan. And that is, we measured our carbon footprint, city services, residential, commercial areas. We used what was at the time the most sophisticated software by ICLEI. We're part of the Cities for Climate Protection. We modeled it. We had a great graduate student who lived in our town, and for her thesis, she devoted a lot of time in that. That was kind of the kickoff of where we were going. After that, we established what we thought were very aggressive greenhouse gas reduction targets. So we have a 10% target reduction in greenhouse gases that we're aiming for by 2010, next year. We voted on it 3 months ago. It's on 2005 baseline numbers. It's going to be extremely difficult for us to meet that. We're a 130-year-old mountain town, 95% of which is on the Federal Register of Historical Places. But by God, we're going to try to meet that because we think that's what we ought to do as a small community that believes deeply in trying to move the ball forward. Our city council has unanimously and actively supported the master planning and restoration of Fountain Creek as it flows through the reaches of Manitou Springs. With approximately $1.3 million in private funding from volunteer organizations, we're well along to restoring Fountain Creek through Manitou Springs into an original riparian environment where native cutthroat trout and bass and other native species can live and breed in Manitou Creek again. We passed an ordinance supporting community-supported agriculture. I believe from my planning department, this is maybe about a month or so ago, we're probably the first community in Colorado to expressly pass an ordinance supporting the pickup and siting and support of CSA in residential areas as opposed to commercial districts or industrial districts. So we got together as a community and figured out what it would look like to be able to pick that up at a person's home in our neighborhood that was convenient, and how many people could show up, and how to passing an ordinance that expressly has that now in our planning code. We now have developed support, and it'll come back in a final process in front of us, but supporting organic garden in our Mansions Park. We have a beautiful flower park back behind City Hall, and it has a beautiful mineral spring that's been running in it. And we're going to allocate some significant portion of that to an organic garden that'll be supported by our community members. We have now approved the formal process of proceeding with the notice that will allow my city to entertain citywide single-stream recycling and waste program. And so while we currently have approximately 5 or 6 different vendors in town, and 1 or 2 of them provide some recycling, and then some of it's only, plastic 2 through 6 and not 1 through 7. Well, we're looking through 1 through 7. We're looking through the whole thing. And this will be an enormous initiative because there are people in our community who have grown very close to their particular waste hauler. And we're aiming to have one entity that will do the best job for the people in our town, and that will help us to our goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions because we're a mountain town, and those big old trucks going up and down our streets emit a great deal of carbon dioxide by having to run on multiple days through the week. We'll do it once a week. It'll be good, it'll be clear, it'll be effective, it'll be efficient, and I'm hoping that it will save my city money. And we'll do all of that because we want to be forward-looking. We've also formally issued a notice to proceed for the posting of energy performance contracting through the Governor's Energy Office. So while we have measured our carbon footprint, the Governor's Energy Office has also sent out individuals to explain to us what we can do with our particular town buildings and our town facilities, our water treatment plant, our city pool, all of those kinds of infrastructure, and bring in the best possible forward-looking energy conservation practices and insulation and all those things of that nature to help us be able to use less energy on a daily basis in our town. And then we've also did something that took us, this is the culmination of 2 years of very hard work. We have now completely revised our historic preservation design guidelines. And that's critical for a town like ours, where you have 95% of our town on the Federal Register of Historical Places. We've never had a time in our town when it was permissible by design or by code to put any kind of renewable energy source on any of our buildings, home, commercial, or business. We have that now. It's in our code, and it expressly allows it, and expressly talks about solar PV, solar thermal, and others. And it was a tremendous amount of work that went into that. And I particularly like the fact that our planning department, our HPC, our outside consultants all got together to make sure that when we were able to move forward with that, not only was it something that allowed our city to move together on something we felt so strongly about, but we had to do it with the constraints that we operate under by being under the mandate of the United States Congress. And so we do these things. Now, in terms of dollars and cents, some of this has been expensive, but here's what happens out of that. In the past 48 to 60 months, Manitou Springs has seen about $32 million in investment in its town. I don't know what that means in terms of our town. I suspect that's probably 3, 4, 5 decades of investment. This is 48 to 60 months. We, a group of us, thought this is how it might roll out in the sense that very early on, we would try to master plan our town into a walkable community, and it was something that the mayor took up before I came to the town, or at least I was in the town when she was mayor. We wanted to see what we could do with this town, turn it into a walkable community, design it completely from end to end, and then try to get a whole lot of funding in place for what was going to be ultimately about an $8.4 million project if we finish all of our 5, 6, 7 phases.